Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Schuyler Callihan here. Another episode of Between the Ears. And I'm trying to get deeper into some more analysis from this past football season while also looking ahead. But I just can't help myself with this transfer portal stuff. I can't. There's nothing that necessarily happened recently that sparked this video. I just started thinking more and more about it. And look, I understand we're in a different era of college football, or really in a different era of college sports. But just because something is made available to you doesn't mean you have to utilize it. Okay? The portal has its pros, has its cons. Believe it or not, there is some benefits to the portal. I don't think it's just 100% of these kids that enter do it for increased NIL opportunities or to get on a bigger stage. That's not necessarily the case. And if you look at the kids that have transferred out of WVU, you would understand that that's very much not the case. But I have a problem with kids bouncing left and right and every which way because they can. I don't know the answer, and I'm not going to pretend to know what the answer really is. That's not for me to figure out. But what I will suggest is that there are some sort of contracts that are put in place that ensure that said player will be tied to said school for a set amount of period. And that can be changed or altered with a coaching staff change or, a sickness or death in the family or something like that. A legitimate reason that has to be sent into the NCAA. And it's a hard check, and it's cut and dry. It's yes or no. There's no gray lines in between. There's no, some kids will get it, some kids won't. That's the only way you're going to create some sort of consistency within this portal. In the contracts, I think you look at it this way. For high school kids, for transfer kids, for JUCO kids, for those that are still in JUCO, which I don't think is going to exist for much longer, there has to be multiple options where when you sign a kid out of high school, you give him the opportunity to say, okay, we're signing you for this many years, and you've got to stay here under these conditions, just like a normal contract the NFL would. And I know it sounds crazy to pin a high school kid to, let's say, even a 2-year commitment. But a 2-year commitment is a hell of a lot better than the kid showing up and by let's just say the midway point of his freshman season, he's not getting playing time. He understands he's not going to get playing time and is ready to bounce already. You know that in those 2 years, things change. Guys are going to graduate. Opportunities are going to open up. And I think that's the biggest problem right now with these younger kids that hit the portal is they're too damn impatient. They don't want to wait around. They think that because they have 4 years of eligibility, that they should be able to play all 4 years. And I'm not saying that look, if your goal is to go to a college and play 4 years, then that's on you. That's on you if you pick the wrong school. You have to understand during the recruitment process, and I understand there's all these, coaches out there that lie about playing time and kind of their path to playing time and all that stuff. I get it. I really do. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to sort through all that. As a kid, as the parents, the support system that's around it, you got to be able to sniff some of this out. And when you go on more than just 2 or 3 visits, or you talk to more than a handful of coaches, you're going to start to be able to pick out what's true and what's not. So to me, that's on the kid for not putting himself in a situation where he can go and play for 4 years, if that's what he truly wants. If you're an average 3-star recruit, and I don't really care for their star rankings, but this is just to help support the conversation here. If you're an average 3-star recruit and you think you're just going to show up at West Virginia and start from day one, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to be disappointed. Now, that doesn't mean you can't start from day one, but that has there's no guarantee in that. If you want to start from day one with that kind of a high school status or high school resume, whatever, you need to go to, like, I don't even know, not even a group of 5. I think you would need to go FCS. Look at the FCS level and see if there's anything there. The problem, I think, with some of these other kids that are groomed and developed into star players that maybe necessarily weren't star players when they came out of high school, or maybe they just didn't have the recruiting profile that some of these others did, that were highly, highly, highly ranked and recruited by every blue blood out there. The problem with those kids is a lack of appreciation. And I'm not saying it's every kid, because every situation is different. But Gino Auriemma talked about it very, very good in his post game against St. John's. I don't know if it was last night or a couple of nights ago, but he hit the nail right on the head. How can a coaching staff pour into his players when there's no appreciation, there's no guarantee for the kid to come back, and you're going to have to find that kid's replacement after a year or two? There's no connection. And you can, just like I was talking about with the recruits, and you can kind of sense, when a coaching staff is being real or not. I mean, a coach kind of can sense whether or not a kid wants to be there, even if they're having a great season. They can kind of start to pick up some signs on the breadcrumb trail and figure out, yeah, at the end of the season, this kid's probably going to enter the portal, or at least entertain the idea. And I think there's a serious lack of understanding from these kids too, that they go from, whatever recruit that they are, to becoming a star at a place like West Virginia. They just think, all right, I became a star here, but now I've got to go to the SEC, or I've got to go to this blue blood program, and I've got to prove myself there, because that is what's going to get me to the NFL. It's not happening. That is absolutely no role in getting you to the NFL. Are you going to get more eyeballs on you? No. Maybe from the average fan, not from the NFL scouts. And look, people will say, yes, if you go to Florida State, if you go to Georgia, if you go to Texas, if you go to Alabama, you're going to have more scouts watching you. Yes, there may be more scouts physically in the building, but they're going to be watching you regardless of where you're at, if you're putting stuff on tape that is NFL worthy. Doesn't matter where you are. They will find you. And it's not like West Virginia is this little tiny school tucked into the mountains, and it's so hard to get to, and no one knows really, how to get there or who exists there. Is it quality football? Like, yes, Yes. The answer is yes. They will find you at West Virginia. They will find you at Texas Tech. They will find you at East Carolina. They will find you at Rutgers. They will find you at Eastern Michigan. Just because you had success at one school doesn't mean that you need to make the jump up to another school to do the same thing. When you go from West Virginia playing in the Big 12 conference, that's big time Power Five or now Power Four football. If you've proven yourself there, okay, and you go to the SEC or the ACC or whatever, you're not having to prove anything else that you didn't prove before. You're not going up against West Virginia. You're going up against the same schools that you would if you transferred before they left the SEC for the SEC. If you would have transferred to Texas or Oklahoma, you're doing the same thing. You're facing the same damn people. The only problem is now you're putting yourself in a tougher position because you have to relearn the scheme. You have to relearn your coaching staff. You have to relearn your teammates. You have to relearn the playbook. And you also have to beat out the competition that's battling for the same starting spot as you. Where the place you just came from, you didn't have to do that. You already had it locked up. I don't understand some of the thinking and the thought process behind some of these kids' decisions. I don't. I really don't. And whoever is feeding them this bad information needs to stop. You're not only killing these kids' careers, first and foremost, that's the most important thing, but you're also killing a team's progress like a West Virginia or even an Eastern Michigan or East Carolina or Texas Tech or Bowling Green or UConn or just any random school that's not a blue blood is what I'm trying to get at. How are those schools ever truly supposed to be competitive in this era of college football if they've got bad people telling them bad crap in their ear? Telling them, hey, kid, you got 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, but it'd be really nice if you went to Ohio State and did that. What the hell's the difference? There's no difference at all in terms of the good side. The bad side of it is, again, you got to go to Ohio State where they've got an abundance of 5 and 4 stars, and you're going to have to beat those kids out for playing time. Make it make sense. I don't understand it. If you want to go to the NFL and you like West Virginia or you like any of these other schools, look at their history of sending guys to the next level. I guarantee you, just about every school that is recruiting you has sent someone to the NFL. It has happened before, and it will happen again. These blue bloods are not just NFL factories where they're farm systems for the NFL and they're the only teams that just send them poof magically into the NFL. If you show out, you will be found, regardless of school, regardless of level. That is my biggest issue, is these kids that come in, they stay for a year or two, they become stars, and they leave the coaches that helped them become those stars high and dry to go somewhere else for some school that when they came out of high school overlooked them, didn't care about them, said, you know what, they don't have a 4 or 5-star ranking attached to their name, don't care about them, go somewhere else. If you get better, then we'll reconsider it. You're an afterthought to those schools, a second option. The schools that truly recruited you, truly wanted you to be there, including the school that you went to and the school that helped you get to be the player that you are now, those are the ones that care about you. Those are the people that you want to have in the back of your corner. Not the ones that just come around and pick up the scraps, right? Pick up the good pieces that are left. the refurbished pieces, if you will. So, whew, got me in a good mood today already to start off this Wednesday. Look, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend to know the answer to how you get these contracts figured out. But let's be honest, we are going to an NFL model. That's just how this thing is going, at least on the football side of things. It is going to be as identical to the NFL as possible. And if these kids want to be treated like professionals and treated like they're in the NFL, then throw the contracts in. Throw the contracts in, give them multiple years. They can pick how many ever years they want. That way, if you have a kid on a 2-year deal, you know, hey, at the end of this 2 years, I'm going to either have to replace him or we re-sign him. And I hate that college football and college sports has gotten to this point because I hate that. That is ridiculous. You should just be able to go to your school, stay there for 4 or 5 years, and if for whatever reason, after 2 or 3 years, you feel like you're losing out on an opportunity of playing time, you're wasting eligibility, you can transfer. I get that. I'm 100% okay for that. But we've got to stop the constant roster churning. It is bad for the sport. 100% bad. The product is still good, but in my opinion, the product pre-portal much better because you actually had a 2 deep, you had a 3 deep, you had kids that have been in the program 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Now you've got a bunch of kids that have been there 3 or 4 months before the season started. How the hell can you find success when you have, in some cases like Arizona, when they had freaking 40 or 50 new kids? They just signed like 5 or 6 high school kids in December, which means they're going to be banking on the portal again. Come on. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments about the portal, what your solution would be. I'm interested to hear. I'll read through the comments to see what you guys have to say about it. So I'll definitely take a look. But that'll do it for us here today. I've got some stuff to do. It's West Virginia, Oklahoma tonight. I've got to get some game day coverage going. I can't spend all day on this, although I promise you I would definitely do that because it is something that I'm very passionate about. So anyways, hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now. Give us a follow on X at the same handle. You can follow myself at Callihan_, and we will be back tonight for the Mountaineers Now post-game show. I'll be joined by Chris Hall, and we'll recap what goes down in Norman between West Virginia and Oklahoma. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Between the Ears. We'll see you here in a few hours for the post-game show.